What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're just gonna give a quick market update again, and this is mostly because the moves that we've been talking about has been playing out. Right? Bitcoin crashed today from 72,000 to around 63,000. If we look at CoinGecko, for example, everything's kind of red. I'm sure everyone that's checking the crypto markets right now are kind of like in fear, right? So for example, yeah, look, Bitcoin is down 13% on the week, 21% on 30-day, and just in 24 hours it's down 3.6. And there's a lot of things going on in the market right now. So the total market today is down 3% also. Yeah, and you can see like the last 7 days it's just been brutal for Bitcoin and ETH. But if you watch my previous videos, we actually talked about this way in advance. So for example, this is a video that we had in 3 weeks ago when Bitcoin was still at around $70,000. Is that $70,000? Yeah, it was still around 70K or 80K at this point 3 weeks ago. So for example, here 3 weeks ago, if I just play this video, you can see that I talk about this pattern. Let's just play this for a few seconds. And how do I know that? Well, firstly, this is a similar pattern from November, right? So a slight uptrend, flash, fear, and greed, crash. Right now we have slight uptrend, flash, fear, and greed, and it's possibly a crash. But it is possible that it might break into the upside. So we need other data points to kind of confirm. Yeah, so here you can see that, yeah, basically I was talking about how there's the slight uptrend, the fear and greed was spiking, and then it usually crashed. And that was the same pattern we were seeing play out. There was like this slight uptrend over here, and Bitcoin fear and greed flashing. And I was just predicting that, this is another crash. And this was when Bitcoin was around like almost 80K, I think, 3 weeks ago. Like if we just look at 3 weeks ago, the price of Bitcoin was 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so yeah, mid-May, I think it was like at 70 also. Yeah. Yeah, it was like 77K, 75K. Yeah, so back then we already predicted this move. In our last video just a few days ago, we titled it Why Bitcoin is Headed to 50K. Let's just play this where I'm talking about it as well. Bitcoin is probably on its way down to like lower valuations. I'm expecting at least 50K, and at worst maybe we'll hit like 40K Bitcoin. And there's a few things. Yeah, so basically that. Yeah, that basically says that, hey, I was also already warning you guys that there might be like a bigger crash coming, right? And if you look at this was like at 73K Bitcoin, right? And it's all been playing out, right? So here, for example, when we were looking at the fear and greed index, just showing you the pattern that we were talking about, yeah, just look at the last 90 days, for example. Actually, no, raw here. So basically here, for example, this is the thing that we're looking at, right? So this top part is the price of Bitcoin. This is the fear and greed. You can see like there was the spike and then it crashed. And it's also, going up, spike, and now it's crashing, right? So I guess the question now is, where do we go from here, right? Bitcoin is now at like 63. Bitcoin's now around 63K. I said in the past two videos that I think we're gonna expect at least 50K. And do you think, the question is, do I still think that? Do I think that we're still headed for 50K? In one of these videos, actually, I mentioned that the next leg down would happen in June, around June to June 11, because the reason why I got June 11 was if we just took the last peak of the fear and greed index and go to the next, when it like ended the bottom of that move, it was like around 1 month. So this was around January 14, and then the bottom was around, February 4. So, it's like 1 month kind of, or 3 weeks. And so if you just added like 1 month to the top of this last spike, that was May 11. So I was guessing around June 11. Today is June 5. So, a week early. But I guess the last move was also 3 weeks. So it's pretty similar. The question is this 63K thing the bottom now, right? So if you watch the other videos, I'm just gonna reiterate that I think that the window of weakness, or the way that we're gonna find the bottom, is around here, either in June, or it's gonna be late October, early November. right? So it really depends how this crash is gonna go. Um, if we look at the previous cycles, it took around 300, around 360 days for it to reach the bottom in the last two cycles. So this is around 360 bars, and this is also 360 bars. 360 bars from the previous high would put us around late October. So this is like October 26 or like October 11, October 7, right? So that puts us around early October. But there are other models that actually put it around early November as well. So definitely, I think within the later part of this year, Bitcoin will show weakness again. I think it's all gonna take into account how low will this move go. If this move goes all the way to 40K or 30K, I think that's going to be it. 30K is I think is unlikely. If we look at the risk levels and how the price is actually moving with these different models. So this is just a model we used again. So we're just fitting like these lines into the model to see the price of Bitcoin. And then this is just a normalized risk version of it. You can see that Bitcoin is still up here for the current model, right? That's at 0.33 risk. And it's saying like the bottom risk is around 39K, or like 40K. So I think 40K would be like the bottom one. Like if we were to hit 40K in June, that would probably be it, right? If we look at the backtested model, which has less bias, so it basically takes into like account only the historical data that played out during that time. We are getting quite low, right? So right now that is still at 0.33, but the bottom is no longer zero. The last bottom was at 0.2. So if we do end up going to 0.2, that will be around 53K, right? And that's why I said that I do think we're gonna hit 50K. The thing is, if we look at this backtested chart, it looks like there is like some drift in the data. Like at the start, this was like you know, all 1.0. The last cycle, it was the cycle after that is just like, less, tops here. And then, it also the lows are getting lower. So um I do think that we're going to hit at least 0.2 risk again, which is around 53K. And if it does reach 53K, I think that would be a pretty good area to buy. So it can go lower according to the current models, but then you have to weigh the risk of like missing out versus the potential gain that you can get. If it does reach 50K and 40 or like mid 30K is the bottom, then you're only looking at like a 20% drawdown from then. And your potential upside is going to be like pretty massive, right? So it's saying like the top will be at like 3x. So, having like just a 20% downside for like a small period of time would probably be worth it. So I might scale in buying some USDT um, so that I can capitalize on this move. So that's where I think the market's at. So one, it's going to depend how low the market's going to go in June. If the market does go pretty low, like in 40s or 30K, I think that's it. If it goes to 50K, which I kind of think it might, I think that would be a good area to start accumulating, regardless if it goes lower or not, because it might not also go lower. And then, if this is it, if the move just ends up like in the 60Ks or, yeah, if it just ends up here right now at the 60Ks, um, yeah, it might be a while before I'll consider buying. So I think there's going to be another weak point somewhere around October or November. Because historically, when we look at the time periods, that is when it like bottoms, like 1 year after the top. So if we just extrapolate previous data, then the bottom will probably be around October or November. But this June move, if it does go low enough, that might be it. So nothing's really guaranteed. So it's really just gonna depend how low this move is gonna go. And yeah, that's how I'm gonna navigate the market. So yeah, there's just quick market updates since there's a lot of like fear coming around. If you just look at the fear and greed index, there is it is like going down. So like the market is pretty fearful right now. But given that sentiment, eventually markets do recover. And one good thing to look at is actually this versus comparison. So if you look at Bitcoin versus all other assets, you get like this graph wherein, some periods it's good to buy gold, some periods it's good to buy Bitcoin, so when it's low here, it's good to trade in your gold for Bitcoin, and up here it's good to trade your Bitcoin for gold, right? And then you can actually average it out to all assets. And if when we do that, we kind of see Bitcoin become pretty low right now. So like if we exclude ETH, because we're kind of like double counting assets, right? So if we exclude ETH, Bitcoin's quite low, and if we include it, it's like mid-high. But basically averaging everything, Bitcoin's pretty low. So like this is already kind of sort of a good time to trade in other assets for crypto, because like gold's pretty high in this, right? Gold had a massive bull run, it's worth a lot. Stocks is like middle. The stock market could still continue to rally a bit and Bitcoin could still go down. But then, yeah, Bitcoin's starting to look like an attractive investment. So, yeah, that's where my head is at. I think it might be a good investment right now ish. Not super, but it's starting to look better. If Bitcoin hits 50K, I'm gonna start investing. If Bitcoin hits 40K, then I'm probably gonna invest a lot more. And if it doesn't do any of that, if we just stay at 60K, I'm still gonna wait for around October or early October or early November before I consider like really scaling in. Just because like these time-based moves do take time. So even if we just stay at 60Ks, yeah, I think it's good. It's a good time to wait for at least the time period of like 1 year, since in every single cycle, that seems like how it's played out. Yeah, so that's how I'm navigating markets. If you want to see more of this, like and subscribe. And we got this right like a month ago. And yeah, so hopefully I can help you guys navigate the markets. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.